Willow tree bark is a fantastic herb for natural pain relief. In this episode, I'm sharing all you need to know to work effectively with willow tree bark for inflammatory and musculoskeletal pain. I'll also share a recipe for willow bark tea so you can easily have your own willow bark medicine at your fingertips. Plus, I'll show you how you can use this versatile preparation topically as well as internally. Chances are you have willow tree bark growing near you. Don't miss out on this amazing medicine for natural pain relief. Hello and welcome to the Herbs with Rosalee podcast, a show exploring how herbs heal as medicine, as food, and through nature connection. I'm your host, Rosalee de la Forêt. I created this YouTube channel to share trusted herbal wisdom so that you can get the best results when relying on herbs for your health. I love offering up practical knowledge to help you dive deeper into the world of medicinal plants and seasonal living. Each episode of the Herbs with Rosalee podcast is shared on YouTube as well as your favorite podcast app. Transcripts and recipes for each episode can be found at herbswithrosaleepodcast.com or through the link in the video description. Also in the video description, you'll find other helpful resources. For example, to get my best herbal tips, as well as fun bonuses, be sure to sign up for my weekly herbal newsletter. Okay, grab your cup of tea and let's dive in. So why turn to willow tree bark for natural pain relief? Well, when it comes to medicine, willow may win the popularity contest. Everywhere willow grows, it has played an important role in medicine and tool making. With hundreds of salix species growing in moist soils around the northern hemisphere, willow generously offers medicine and food to countless beings, from bees and beetles to humans. Willow tree bark has been used for thousands of years by people all around the world, including the Chinese, Europeans, and many indigenous peoples of North America. Willow is a popular plant for natural pain relief. I'm curious, do you have experience with willow tree bark? I'd love to hear about it in the comments, either here on YouTube or on the official podcast page, herbswithrosaleepodcast.com. Your comments mean a lot to me, and I love cultivating a community of kind-hearted plant-loving folks. Plus, it's always interesting and insightful to hear the experiences of plant lovers out there. And you never know, your suggestion may also help others. Okay, let's dive in. Willow tree bark for natural pain relief. Willow tree bark naturally relieves pain and modulates inflammation. It's commonly used for backaches, muscular soreness, headaches, and arthritis. Sometimes called the aspirin plant, willow was the first plant from which salicylic acid was isolated in 1828. How aspirin came to be is an interesting story, and it really shows us the absolute brilliance that's found within plants. So here's the story. Scientists had decided that salicylic acid was the most important constituent of willow. But when they isolated that, they found that salicylic acid had serious adverse effects and could readily cause gastric distress, like stomach bleeding. Decades later, researchers in Germany combined salicylic acid with acetyl chloride, creating a new substance with fewer negative effects on people's stomach health. Aspirin was patented in 1900 and continues to be one of the most popular over-the-counter drugs. Some people might think of willow tree bark as a weaker form of aspirin, but in many ways, willow is safer than aspirin, and it's most likely conveniently growing somewhere near you. It's ironic that when isolating salicylic acid from willow, scientists were overriding the inherent wisdom of the plant in its whole form. Willow doesn't cause gastric bleeding or distress because of the other constituents in the plant. In other words, willow tree bark is this complex medicine, and it's too simplistic to regard willow and aspirin as the same medicine. In addition to being safer than aspirin, willow has other beneficial effects. So do willow tree bark and aspirin work in exactly the same way? Well, here's the thing. The level of salicylic acid in willow tree bark is actually quite low. So, researchers surmise that its pain-relieving effects are due to the synergy of many constituents such as flavonoids and polyphenols. One study reviewing the differences in action between willow and aspirin stated, "The multi-component active principle of willow bark provides a broader mechanism of action than aspirin and is devoid of serious adverse events. In contrast to synthetic aspirin, willow bark does not damage the gastrointestinal mucosa." Another study showed that willow bark induced antioxidant enzymes and prevented oxidative stress. In one double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled clinical trial, a willow bark extract was found to be more effective than a placebo at relieving osteoarthritis. Willow tree bark works for natural pain relief, and as you can see, it has different modes of actions and benefits from aspirin. One of the ways that willow tree bark works so well is that it modulates inflammation, which is a big deal, especially in regards to chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the leading cause of most chronic diseases, including heart disease, arthritis, back pain, skin conditions like eczema and acne, type 2 diabetes, and so many more. One of my passions is helping people figure out how to best work with herbs and lifestyle changes to powerfully reduce chronic inflammation so they can finally address the root cause of their chronic illness. I have a free training all about this called How to Use Herbs to Transform Your Health to Get More Energy and Vitality Without Expensive Supplements or a Restrictive Elimination Diet. You can access this free training at herb-training.com. Willow tree bark energetics. You might be wondering, which willow is best? Can you use your local willows for natural pain relief? It's important to know that not all willows are the same. Years ago, I was on a plant walk with herbalist Darcy Williamson, who demonstrated how she chooses which willows to harvest for making medicine. She reached up to pull this long, supple branch of a willow down, and she began to gnaw on it slightly. She said that the more bitter the plant, the better it would be for medicine, and I have found that to be true. I love how this hands-on and organoleptic method really works. Speaking of bitter, willow bark has been used as a bitter tonic to stimulate digestion, as well as a vermifuge to get the body rid of parasitic worms. In addition to the bitter flavor, willow bark is noticeably astringent and can be used to tighten and tone lax tissues like spongy gums, mouth sores, or boggy intestines causing excessive diarrhea. Willow tree bark for modulating inflammation in fevers, colds, and influenza. Willow bark was historically used in serious infections like malaria and typhoid fever. It was considered specific for intermittent fevers, meaning fevers that come and go. Willow's astringency was also frequently favored for addressing excessive diarrhea, as in dysentery. Herbalist Seven Song recommends willow as an anti-inflammatory. He uses it frequently to increase comfort during a cold or during the flu. And it has many benefits for these symptoms. As an astringent herb with antiseptic properties, the decoction of the bark makes a good gargle for sore throats. I'll show you how to make that in just a moment. There is some question whether willow bark is the best choice to address fevers. While fevers were feared in the past, there's now a growing appreciation for this important immune system function. So using aspirin or other drugs to artificially lower a person's fever is no longer the standard recommendation. So does willow bark act in the same way? Does taking willow bark interrupt that important immune system process directed by the fever? At this point, I'm not sure, so I tend to use other herbs with diaphoretic actions to support the fever process. Some of my favorites are elderflower and yarrow, both of which I have solo episodes for. In 2021, some preliminary in vitro research showed that willow may have some anti-inflammatory benefits for COVID-19. The researchers concluded, our in vitro data suggests that salix extracts might present an additional anti-inflammatory treatment option in the context of SARS-CoV-2 peptides challenge. Willow tree bark for the skin. Topically, willow works especially well as a wash for wounds because of its ability to pull tissues together, reduce pain, and prevent infection. I just came across this interesting study published in 2023 and found it so fascinating. So researchers were looking into the possibility of using willow bark fibers to make wound dressings. In their research, they found out that the preparations containing at least 50% of willow bark fiber bundles significantly inhibited biofilm formation by Staphylococcus aureus strains. The researchers concluded, overall, this study paves the way to the use of bark-derived fiber bundles as a natural-based material for active antibacterial and anti-biofilm wound dressings, upgrading this underappreciated bark residue from an energy source into a high-value pharmaceutical use. It'll be interesting to see what comes of that research. Another study found that willow use topically may be a benefit for people with chronic acne. Researchers tested the difference in using a facial cleanser with willow and hops to a placebo wash in 21 volunteers. The volunteers were given the 2 facial cleansers and were instructed to twice daily wash one side of their forehead with one of the cleansers and the other side of the forehead with the other cleanser. The results were that the botanical face cleanser significantly reduced the sebum level. A preliminary clinical study involving a willow, licorice, and gentian cream preparation showed that it was just as beneficial as a 1% hydrocortisone treatment for addressing inflammation in people dealing with atopic dermatitis. Here's a really interesting application for willow tree bark, topically. Dark circles under the eyes. These dark circles can be due to blood stasis due to poor vascular integrity in that area. In one clinical study, 29 patients applied a willow extract cream for 8 weeks, and the researchers reported significant improvement. They wrote, therefore, willow bark extract can be used as an active ingredient for improving dark circles. How to identify willow? Well, we come to you rain or shine, and since it started raining, we have moved under this beautiful ponderosa pine tree for a little bit of shelter so we can finish up the video. Willow trees grow in most northern latitudes and especially love growing in wet places like besides rivers or lakes. The willow that I'm standing next to just there is in our garden, and it's so hardy. We actually cut back that willow completely to the trunk earlier this spring, and now it's already sprouting up so many different new branches. There's about 400 different species in the Salix genus, and they easily cross-pollinate. With a basic understanding of botany, you can easily recognize a willow tree, but knowing exactly which species can be a bit tricky. The trees themselves vary greatly in appearance, ranging from spindly shrubs to large towering trees. For medicinal purposes, white willow, or Salix alba, and black willow, Salix nigra, are often used. Willow leaves are often elongated and serrated, but can be oval as well. Most willows are deciduous and lose their leaves each fall. Willows are dioecious plants, meaning that they make male and female flowers, and those are carried on separate trees. They can be distinguished by the different flowers or catkins. Here's a great way to identify willow in the early spring. Willows have the distinguishing feature of having a single bud scale. A bud scale is a modified leaf that protects the bud on the growing ends of the twigs. Safety considerations for willow tree bark. Before I show you how to make a willow bark tea, I want to share some safety considerations to give you an idea of who might not benefit from willow. Willow is generally safe for most people, although it should be used with caution during pregnancy and breastfeeding. It is not recommended for children, and it's hypothesized that those who are taking blood thinning medications, beta blockers, diuretics, NSAIDs, or Dilantin should avoid taking willow bark. If you are allergic to aspirin, you might also have a reaction to willow, so again, proceed with caution. How to make willow bark tea for natural pain relief. Most willows are medicinally interchangeable, but depending on the species, they have varying degrees of potency. This means that the necessary dosage might change significantly from tree to tree. One tree you might need a little bit, one tree you might need a lot. As I shared earlier, the taste of the bark can be one way to determine the potency of a specific tree. The King's American Dispensary says the following: There are numerous species of salix, many of which undoubtedly possess analogous medicinal virtues. The best rule to follow is to select those whose barks possess great bitterness, combined with astringency. It is good to note that the weeping willow, or Babylonian willow, Salix babylonica, is cultivated as an ornamental tree and is not used as medicine. Willow bark is usually gathered in the spring and fall. The bark is best harvested from properly pruned branches. I like to gather the bark from the smoother, smaller branches. The bark can then be dried for later use as a decoction, tinctured, powdered for capsules, or used as a fomentation, which is a topical preparation. If you'd like to learn more about how to make potent herbal medicines from the plants that grow around you, whether they be in your garden, wild meadows, or even your local apothecary, then check out our course, Rooted Medicine Circle. In this live 10-month course, we create herbal medicines throughout the seasons together. At the end of it, you have an entire apothecary filled with potent herbal medicines that you've made. The following willow bark tea recipe can be drank as a tea for inflammatory pain and gut conditions, and gargled to relieve sore gums and throat. I will warn you though, this is bitter, but that's also what makes it great medicine, as we've been discussing. But if drinking bitter teas isn't your thing, then this preparation can also be used externally. You can add it to bath water or use it as a wash to soothe itchy skin conditions like eczema and poison ivy or poison oak rashes. So to make this, you'll need 1 ounce dried willow bark or twigs, which is about a half cup of finely cut willow bark, and 2 cups of cold water. You'll place the water and the willow in a saucepan, cover and bring that to a boil, and then reduce the heat to low and simmer for about 20 minutes. You can then strain out the herbs and use the liquid as desired. If you're not going to use it right away, you can let it cool and then refrigerate it for up to 24 hours. Dosages vary depending on the person and the type of willow being used, so it's always a good idea to start low and then slowly work up until the desired effects are achieved. To make a fomentation or a topical preparation, let the liquid cool until it's comfortable enough to touch, but still warm, and then soak a cloth in the liquid, wring it out, and apply it to the affected area of the body. If heat feels good, apply a hot water bottle over the cloth. Or, if desired, you could cool the liquid before applying the cloth. Keep the cloth on for about 20 minutes, or as desired. This willow bark tea recipe is in our book, Wild Remedies, How to Forage Healing Foods and Craft Your Own Herbal Medicine, which I co-authored with Emily Hahn. This book is perfect for you if you want to learn more about the plants growing near you. Included with each herbal chapter is safety information, sustainable harvest instructions, and lots of fun and easy recipes like the one I've just shared. Don't miss out on your free printable recipe card for this willow bark tea recipe. If you're watching on YouTube, then you can click the link in the video description. Or if you're listening on the podcast, you can go directly to the show notes at herbswithrosaleepodcast.com. Also in the video description and show notes, I've included other helpful links, like where you can buy Willow, as well as both of my books. If you enjoyed this video on willow tree bark for natural pain relief, and you value trusted herbal information, then I hope that you'll stick around. The best way to get started is to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. Well, we have just covered a lot of information about willow tree bark. One of the best ways to actually retain and fully understand something you've just learned is to share it in your own words. With that in mind, I invite you to share your takeaways with me and the entire Herbs with Rosalee community. You can leave comments on my YouTube channel, on the herbswithrosaleepodcast.com show notes page, or simply hit reply to my Wednesday emails. I read every comment that comes in, and I'm excited to hear about your herbal thoughts about willow tree bark. I deeply believe that this world needs more herbalists and plant-centered folks, and I'm so glad that you're here as part of this herbal community. Also, a big round of thanks to the people all over the world who make this podcast happen week to week. Nicole Paul is the project manager who oversees the whole operation, from guest outreach to writing show notes to actually uploading each episode, and so many other things I don't even know. She really holds this whole thing together. Francesca is our fabulous video and audio editor. She not only makes listening more pleasant, she also adds beauty to the YouTube videos with plant images and video overlays. Tatiana Rusakova is the botanical illustrator who creates gorgeous plant and recipe illustrations for us. I love them. I know that you do too. Christy edits the recipe cards, and then Jenny creates them as well as the thumbnail images for YouTube. Michelle is the tech wizard behind the scenes, and Karen is our student services coordinator and customer support. For those of you who like to read along, Jennifer is who creates the transcripts each week. Xavier, my handsome French husband, is the cameraman and website IT guy. It takes an herbal village to make it all happen, including you. Okay, you've lasted to the very end of the show, which means you get a gold star and this herbal tidbit. Willow is one of our most generous plants, offering us pain relief, digestive and skin support, baskets, and even a little bit of shade to rest under. As mentioned, willow grows abundantly throughout the earth, and many beings rely on willow for food, medicine, and shelter. Here's a few examples, given on the Illinois Wildflowers site. An amazing amount of bees, flies, and beetles visit the catkins in the early spring. If you're wondering who your small local pollinators are, just spend some time with a flowering willow. Turtles, like snapping turtles and wood turtles, eat the fallen catkins and leaves, as do some birds, like the ruffed grouse and some species of ducks. And many birds, like the rusty grackle, yellow warbler, and warbling vireo, will make their nests in willow trees. Perhaps the most famous example of ecosystem interdependence is the beaver, who eats the wood and uses the branches to build their home.